Hello, everybody. This is week 3 of the Story the Future online summit. Actually, my favorite part, because this part is called Story the Future. It's the time when we're talking to people who are doing interesting and, I guess, leading edge stuff that actually is trying to change the story of the place they find themselves in or the issue they're interested in. And today, I'm really pleased to introduce you to Ben Ooko, who's in Nairobi at the moment. His home of Nairobi, and we're going to be talking about some of the work he's been doing around Kibera, which is the biggest slum in Nairobi and where he grew up. And the two of us met in Prague, of all places, at a international guides and scouting event we were invited to be at, and that was a really joyous time for meeting. And I knew at that time that I thought your story was really important, and I'm really glad that you are joining us here. So welcome.
Thank you. Actually, Kibera is the largest slum in Africa now, immediately after Soweto was upgraded. Soweto in South Africa was upgraded, so now Kibera is the largest slum here. We say we are about 1 million people living in the informal settlement.
Wow. And so your growing up time there, what was that like? There will be undoubtedly many people who wonder, what was it like to grow up in a place like that?
For me, growing up in Kibera was normal, that was the best environment that I knew, that my parents gave me. I didn't know there was anything much better than Kibera, than the environment where we had like many people around us, being able to share with so many young people, around so many children, around so many playing spaces, around, making our own toys, being creative, using car tires, running up and down, making creative things from, tin, making cars from that. It was just a land full of opportunities for creativity. And I only knew we deserved more, a much better lifestyle when I left Kibera, when I was growing up, when I learned about the flush toilets, when I saw maybe better schools, better playing fields, and even better houses. So that's the only time I realized so there's something much, much better than we have in Kibera.
And yet you had a real community to grow up in, didn't you? There were people who you were a family with more than just your own nuclear family.
True. Actually, in my family, we were born 13 children. And I'm the eldest. But then we had a bigger family in the community, Kibera is very cosmopolitan. Any other person from all the 43 tribes in Kenya, you will find them living here in Kibera. So it kind of exposed me to different cultures, different tribes, and also getting to learn a little bit of many other tribes. Like now I can speak my mother tongue, which is Luo, I can speak Swahili, I can speak English, I can speak a bit of Nubian. I hear a little bit of either Kamba or something. So I was exposed to so many languages, all these. That was just the beauty of Kibera.
So as you were growing up as a young person, what was that like, and what were your passions?
I was very, very passionate about playing football. Before playing football, I was very passionate about making things with my hand, making some toys that we'll actually use to play, that we'll use to move around in Kibera, and wish that your parents will send you. And that time maybe you've made a big car and put some lights. So you always wish your parents will send you at night so that you can use your skills and just put on the lights. And very, very interesting, crazy, small things that inspired us. But then I didn't know, that kind of inspired what we were to become in future. I loved football so much, like many other kids. So we scrambled for the little spaces that were in there. We made our own balls from waste papers or from clothes, just made something round and tied it around with the ropes. And we started to play with that. And it was beautiful, like really beautiful. We enjoyed so much. I started my school in a public school just after Kibera. And it again exposed me when I went to my primary school. That kind of exposed me again to many different people from different backgrounds. And one of the worst things that I regret in my life is at the age of about 9, some of my best friends managed to influence me into starting to use cigarettes. Then we went to marijuana, and then we started to use some kind of hard drugs, you know. And this is one part of my life that I really don't like. But again, it was because we played football together, we spent a lot of time together, we were classmates together. So we always like were together, and I always wanted to fit in to what they actually described, like what looked like perfect kind of like life to live.
Wow, that's a big pressure, isn't it? You got to fit into the story that's around you.
Yeah.
With the people you want to be with. So what happened from?
Well, from there, I moved on. I continued using these kind of small drugs, continued smoking. I never went into alcohol because I didn't want my parents to get to know that I'm drunk. You know, when you're drunk, you cannot hide.
Oh, sneaky.
But when you use like either cigarettes or marijuana, sometimes you'll use something to kind of like mess up with or remove the smell, the odor, so that nobody knows what you've used. They'll only see you happy, smiling, you know, or perceived happiness and just kind of smiling. So this continued until when I was about 12. I think either my dad realized or something, because I was rarely at home. I was many days, actually the days that I slept on the streets, in bus stops, in cartons, in boxes, in the cold, just trying to run away from the reality. My dad at some point would beat me up because of that. And I didn't really like to be beaten. And I had to run away many a times. So by the age of 12, my dad took me up country. I actually feel he cheated me that my grandfather had died. So that was the reason we were going to do burial for my grandfather. But well, he used that occasion to actually take me up country, because when you are up country, my sisters and my other siblings came back. And instead of coming back, I was handed over a new school uniform for my new school up country. So I did not feel well. I felt like why that was happening to me. You know, somebody is removing you from what you call civilization, taking you up country to a place where we described it like it was a place where there was no life, you know. So while at school, then my new school, I managed again to gang up with the bad boys who had also been taken from the city, taken up country to reform, kind of. And we continued with our business of, you know, smoking. And I also went into cultivating things like marijuana and even selling them. So by around 12 years, I was actually a business. Yes, the legal business. So that continued for like 2 years. I would say my first year up country, I actually had to drop out of school, because when schools closed up country, when school closed when I was in Nairobi, we'll actually go for a real holiday. Like, you're not going to school, nobody is waking you up to go to school or things like that. But in up country, they were forcing you to go back for tuition and to go and do some manual work at school. So I was not happy about that, and I didn't want to do it. So I was forced to leave school, because I was also afraid that I would be beaten the following term when school reopens. So I quit school, you know, for like 7-8 months or something. But then towards the end of the year, I started thinking that when I'm out here, I do not have the opportunity to play football with my age mates. The following year, schools were playing competitive matches for the school. And I remembered how people came to love the way I was playing football. People were singing songs about me that made me feel so nice, you know.
Yeah.
My teachers, my classmates, the referees, other teachers, members of the community kept telling me that I have a bright future with playing football or soccer in other places of the world. So, and I decided to go back to school just so that I have the opportunity to play this soccer. But I did not stop to use the stuff that I was using. Something happened to me when I was in my grade 8. That was at around 15 years of age. That I messed up my team when I came in for a football match late. And I was the school captain. So that was a bad example, because as a leader, you're not supposed to lead that way. And when I came in late, well, we were so high on marijuana. We were 3 of us. And that just changed my life, because I costed my team, school, from actually proceeding or even winning the title. And when I went back home, I kind of sobered up, and things started ringing back in my mind. Like many people were telling me, you know, if you want to be good, you have to be disciplined, you cannot use marijuana. And at this point, I was seeing the effects of drugs, of using drugs, you know, in my performance while I'm playing football. So I really felt so bad deep down my heart. And it's at that particular moment that I decided, like, I will not use any more drugs. I wanted to concentrate on developing my talent in football and become one of the greatest players here. You know, by that time, it was a big dream. Like, as a young boy, the dream of imagining that you're going to play for your national team, or even for a local club, Gor Mahia, or here, was just so, like, big. So that's how I stopped.
The love of it pulled you back in to yourself.
Yes. So that's how I stopped using all this hard stuff. I also stopped selling, and I decided to concentrate on my education. Yeah. But after stopping to use them, 5-6 months down the line, I actually saw quite a lot of improvement, even in my own performance academically. Yeah, because I was always position 7 or 8. Yeah. But when we finally did our final national examination, I was second placed.
Wow.
Yeah, I was so happy, you know, in our school. I was so happy. I had very bad attitude towards mathematics and also towards music. But I think, yeah, I love singing reggae, you know, with the Bob Marleys and all these other artists. Yeah. But when it came to, like, now the drawings of the G clefs and the F clefs, that was like a no-no for me. Mathematics, sometimes I make big jokes. I say, like, I remember for a long time, I never went beyond 8%. But yeah, magic happened, and it was actually one of my best results. Wow. At the end of my primary school. So I went to high school, a good high school, and luckily they also embraced football. So I got the opportunity to continue playing football when I was at high school. And again, I loved everything. It kept me in school. I always found, like, a lot of reasons why I always needed to go back to school. So today, back in school, most of the people actually remember me not for how I performed academically, but for my skills in playing football.
Wow! So
they wonder why I never played professional. But yeah, that's another story. When I was in college, I was studying electrical engineering, and still again playing football for my college. I was a utility. I was a goalkeeper and also midfielder and a striker. So this particular time, I went to play in the midfield. And that's how I tore my ligaments on the left knee. And that was my end of, footballing career or the big dream. So I had to think, so what next? I loved football so much. But that drove me into now starting again to use football to mobilize young people with me in Kibera, my peers, so that we could do something in the community. So we'll organize community cleanups, we'll organize sessions where we'll act or we'll recite poems with some good messages, like some educative messages to young people and also to all people within the community. So it kind of also like molded my positive thinking into looking at what solutions can we offer to the challenges that we are facing in Kibera. Because when I was doing this, it exposed my mind like, wow, this is not how we're supposed to be living. There are many challenges that the young people are facing in Kibera. And we always try to find a way to resolve or like to reduce some of these challenges that we are facing. Encouraging young people not to use drugs, encouraging people to go to school, to go on with education and things like that.
So it seems to me like there's this full circle here of you now talking to or working with your inner 9-year-old, that same 9-year-old who is at that point of starting into drugs and starting to go a different pathway, that when you speak to that one and you do it through the love of football, then suddenly new possibility is there.
True.
So Amani Kibera, how did that come about? How did you found as a co-founder of that?
Yeah, in the year 2007, I was seated watching one of the largest political party then in the government. They were launching their beautiful manifesto. But instead of doing the manifesto launch, each speaker, all the big politicians will stand and start talking so negatively about Kibera. By then, the presidential candidate was a member of parliament of Kibera. And they kept referring to, if you want Kenya to look like Kibera, then elect the other guy. So for me personally, I did not feel good about it, because Kibera is not the making of the people in Kibera.
Yeah.
If the government wanted to resolve the issues in Kibera, whether housing or education, it will actually do that without any strain. But because they like to see Kibera remain the way it is, they will not do anything. And blaming it on somebody else, especially the opposition, I think for me was misplaced. So I felt myself becoming sad.
Yeah.
I didn't like the talks. And I called some of my friends. I called a friend called Bernard Maticha, and I asked him, are you watching the interview? And he was like, I was almost calling you. I don't like what these people are talking about.
Yeah.
So we were like, can we meet? Can we talk about this? So we called two other of our friends, one called OJ, Christopher Boer, and the other one called Anastasia Njeri. And we met over a cup of coffee just outside Kibera. And as we were talking, many young people also kept calling us differently. They didn't even know we were together. And everyone was not happy about what had happened.
Yeah.
And the mood of the slum kind of was just like, everyone has formed opinion about Kibera, like it's one of the worst places to be in and things like that. So what we wanted to do was to change that narrative.
Yeah.
What could we do so that we're able to change that narrative, so that people continue living together and appreciating each other the way they always appreciated each other? So we decided to meet other young people and mobilize ourselves within 48 hours. We organized a whole peace week, a whole campaign for a whole week on peace. And the theme was Amani Kibera. Amani Kibera means peace in Kibera. And we were telling people we need to embrace the diversity, we need to celebrate each other, we need to continue living like we've always lived, all along together, helping each other, supporting each other, And we used all forms of art. Acrobats came and they would mobilize people using their acrobatic skills. The musicians came, and it was beautiful performances. We were pushing all the sound system that was donated by one of us, Bernard Maticha, in a handcart. And the generator was... and one of our friends had a video. This is a small cinema house where people go watch movies or watch football. And they will say, like, during the day, I'm not using this generator. So we'll bring it along. And people will contribute as little as 5 shillings, you know, so that we could fuel this generator and have our source of energy. Wow. And we went for a whole week. We were collecting signatures of people we call peace ambassadors. We did about 10,000 of those. We did tie ribbons on their hands, white ribbons, telling them that, you know, guys, your peace, now by taking this is a kind of an oath that you will be your brother's keeper, that you will not turn against your brother. Yeah. We did the same with politicians, and we asked them, can you do your campaigns in a manner that people will not be divided, that you will unite people? So this was our clear message. So we did get about 24 politicians and only one religious leader, unfortunately. Wow. Yeah. But in the process, we also felt so rejected because we went to big organizations, we went to big churches, asking them to join us in the peace campaign. None of them wanted to join us. So one organization, I remember, told us, our work is in the health sector. We deal with HIV and AIDS. How does HIV and AIDS and peace relate? So we got so mad.
Wow.
Yeah. We got so mad. And I remember we told him that should anything happen, we want to see how you will continue your work. Coincidentally, this organization is the first one that actually called us when violence broke out. And they were like, hi guys, can we do another peace campaign? And we were like, no, we'll not do another peace campaign. So we were sad. During the whole violence in 2007, after the disputed elections, we continued, we did documentation of the process. And we also, some of us, like Bernard Maticha, was mediating at a bridge between 2 villages, one his village and my village. His village was Lainsaba and my village was Lindi. And the young people were fighting, you know, over nothing. And there were houses that were burning. There was a dead body lying down by the bridge. And coincidentally, he spotted my brother and he called him by name. It was at night. And he listened to him when he recognized it was Bernard's name. And he brought them together and they discussed. And they found out that there was actually nothing that they were fighting about. It was only a rumor that we are told you're coming to attack us. And the other guys were saying, like, we're told you're coming to attack us. So at that point, they all agreed to take care of their own villages without intruding into the other villages. And then they joined hands together and put off the fire that was burning the houses that were just at the border. So this was one of our biggest motivating stories. And we thought about it and said, like, why don't we do something that is more preventive in nature so that we can prevent all this violence from ever reoccurring? Work with the children so that they grow up with you know, like thoughts of how do we resolve our own issues in a non-violent manner.
Yeah.
How do we celebrate the diversity that is actually in us? Because Kibera is so diverse, so cosmopolitan, a lot to celebrate about, you know. It's not typical of many other places.
Yeah.
So this is why we decided then to come up with Amani Kibera, that we say is an initiative whose vision is to promote peaceful coexistence and an active society that will ensure dignity, equality, and respect for human rights. You know, that is what is important, not just a society that will be quiet about its issues when we are pressed, but a society that will be active to resolve its own issues in a non-violent manner. that I will respect your opinion, and that you'll also respect my opinion.
Yeah.
So that is what we do today. We use football again. Football keeps following me.
I see a theme. I see a theme.
Yeah. Football keeps following me. So we use football.
Mm-hmm.
We use the power of arts,
Mm-hmm.
because people love art. Young people love art. So all these, we use them as mobilizing tools, where when we mobilize young people, we are able to speak about issues that affect us. And we are able also to come up with possible solutions
Mm-hmm.
to some of these challenges that we face here. We also push a lot for education,
Mm-hmm.
because we believe that an educated person is likely a peaceful person. They always offer kind of like a peaceful solutions towards conflict whenever they are faced with such a situation. So that's why today we run a free community library in Kibera. It's won 3 awards as the best community library in the whole country.
Wow.
We pride in that. Yeah. We do Mr. and Miss Kibera, again, using modeling or catwalk as a tool to mobilize young people. It's not the conventional size 10, size 16 beauty thing. No, it's about brains, beauty and brains.
Yeah.
And we call it beauty with a purpose, where the people who come to contest, for us, it's more of a leadership contest, are young people who are interested in discovering the challenges that they face in the community, and also discussing with others to discover possible solutions of what we can actually do to resolve these challenges in the community by ourselves. So it's kind of like our own drive towards getting our own kind of solutions. We also have a girls empowerment program where we train young girls, young single mothers, and also boys who like to learn about tailoring and later on advance to fashion and design in their lives. Because for us, we feel like the moment you have these skills, then you're able to secure a job for yourself, or you're able to start a business that is able to employ many other young people within the slum. And of course, the power of football. We use football in what we call value-based sports. We're adding some value to the football. That we're using this game that you really love to add some values, to bring in some life skills in you that will make you grow up a responsible person. If you have a young boy who plays football, try this. That you as a parent can tell this boy that do not leave the house without doing your homework. I'm sure this kid has high chances of leaving that house without doing the homework. But if the coach tells this kid that do not come to the field without doing your homework, this kid will not go to the field without doing the homework. They'll always ensure that they do their homework before they come to the field. So this is the power of coaching. This is the power of a coach. Because this kid, the coach is just like a teacher who is always right for these kids. The teacher is more clever than the parent sometimes, even if the parent is a teacher. A beautiful story, yeah. So that is, we use this power of, what these people love, what somebody loves, and use this to transform their way of thinking so that they can start to discover things for themselves in a beautiful way.
Oh, that's wonderful. But speaking of beauty, I think many people, when they hear the word slum, have a certain picture in their mind. But you've told me that Kibera is actually on one of the most beautiful parts of Nairobi, and leafy trees, all that kind of thing. And there was a tree that had something to do with your name, Ooko.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Well, my name is Ben Ooko. So Ooko, O-K-O, means born outside. So born outside in two ways. That I was born in the city. I was not born in the countryside. And the second thing is I was actually literally born outside when my mom was taking me to the hospital to give birth to me. So I decided to come before leaving the slum. So my mom and the people who were taking her to the hospital took her near a tree, a big tree, and covered her, and she gave birth to me in this particular place. So coincidentally, it's a rather sad story for me because 2 years ago, this tree was cut down to pave way for a link road that is going through Kibera, that is actually aimed at easing the traffic in Nairobi. But this tree did not just go with the place where I was born, my favorite tree, and where my umbilical cord was actually buried. This tree also brought down our community center on my birthday, which was on 23rd of July. It was kind of a sad moment for me, but I also thought that was, I also felt that was kind of symbolic for me, because when the tree was cut down, it was cut down 3 days before my birthday. And when when they were demolishing houses and forcefully evicting people along this particular corridor, that was done on my birthday. So the day that I was supposed to celebrate, I was actually like really deep or so sad. And I really felt so bad about it.
Yeah. So outside, literally, for people who were living right in the pathway of this road.
Well, it's a sad moment because about 30,000 people were left homeless. 30,000 families that were living along this particular corridor. And it was not done in a human manner. I didn't like how it was done. I thought, and I still think, as somebody who advocates for nonviolence, I still think that there were many other ways to non-violently do this, to do this in a more human way, that does not cause pain and suffering to people. So I didn't feel good when I saw students being pulled out of class, and their school being demolished. I didn't feel good about that. That they're not given alternative schools where they're supposed to go to. Some of these kids actually still at home looking for schools where they're supposed to go to. It's now stopped to be the responsibility of the government, but the parents. Yesterday, I was speaking to 2 children whose schools were demolished and they have not yet gone to school. And I feel so bad about it. Because then such kids actually grow up knowing that if older people do not appreciate the value of education, if older people appreciate inflicting violence to the human society, then who am I to go to school? That's why today we have a big problem with radicalization, because these are breeding grounds for radicalization. There's a lot of hatred in young people. Around the same time, many people were like, I don't like the government. What are these people? Why? How do they see us? Are we invisible? Why are they treating us like this? Is it because you're from the poor environments? Is it because you're poor? Is it because we don't mean anything? Or is it because we don't contribute anything to the economy? So there are many people who felt bad. I met young people who I had never seen drunk, but were drunk during the day. And you ask why? People are traumatized.
There's pain.
So, it was painful. There was no measures that were actually taken to be able to change that. So it's something I would really love to forget as fast as possible. But again, I decided to take more interest into that. So, because there are more pending evictions that will happen, especially in Kibera. Those people living along the 2 rivers. Kibera has 2 rivers, the Ngong River and Nairobi River. Those people living along the access roads that had been, were grabbed and people constructed houses or schools. All these are still going to be evicted. So I am actually pursuing and trying to find what are the best ways that the government can work with its citizen to be able to ensure that the evictions do not cause harm, do not cause pains and suffering, do not bring in more, destruction that increases poverty to people, because people are struggling in life. It's not easy times right now. So that for me was kind of like what inspired me. I have a beautiful team of volunteers with me at Amani Kibera who basically did so much when I was completely broken down.
Yeah.
I didn't know what to do. They swept all the rubbish, cleared everything, transferred some of the books that we had and the machines, and they managed to find another center where we are temporarily for like 6 months or 1 year as we do resource mobilization, or as we find another space to be able to either construct or rent a different location. But it's not easy, because just in Amani Kibera, at some point we felt stagnated, and we had to organize counseling session for each and every member, or each and every volunteer, and each and every beneficiary who frequently used the library, so that kind of helps them to heal, to recover, to accept that, this is the reality, and you can actually move from where you actually left.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's wow. So there's always something to be mobilizing about, I guess you could say. There's something to be paying attention to be awake to, and that movement to help each other deal with it is really important. True. So right now you're going to be hosting a conference in December, aren't you?
Yeah. We are hosting a conference in December. It's on the curriculum for global solidarity economy. It's about investing in people, It's not about investing in, like the central value should be, how do we invest in people, in the social community, so that we can all move together towards a sustainable community. The world today is becoming more and more violent, because we're thinking about power and we're thinking about profit. For ourselves. We do not want that we share all this profit of all of us together. So I think if we invest in people and we start moving all of us together, and we start looking at the challenges that we face in the world today together, then we will have a much, much better world. The world is a beautiful place. I've been lucky to travel across the world, and I admire how unique each and every place is. It's beautiful everywhere. It's beautiful everywhere. And I would love each and every one of us just to see and appreciate this kind of beauty. They are beautiful people. They are beautiful sceneries. Like, just beautiful. Everything is beautiful. Yeah. So during the festival, we have this international conference with people from across the world. We'll also be having our own local activities. We'll be hosting the football tournament again for young people.
I'm sure that was going to be there.
Yeah, that has to be there. That's about it brings about 1,000 young people actively playing together. This is creating business for young people out there. People who will be hawking groundnuts or selling some drinks or juices. People will be selling clothes and, sports wares and things like this. It generates, it grows, it builds into the economy. But more so, our most important thing is, how do we bring up a cohesive society? A society that celebrates each other. So by bringing people from different parts of the country and different parts of the world, and they get to meet and they speak about their cultures, their places where they're living, where they're coming from. It just creates a good mood around. And this is the kind of world that we actually want to create, a beautiful world. a world full of stories. Actually, during the festival, people will be telling stories, you know.
Yeah.
From back home, even if you don't appreciate it, back home, you'll be talking about stories on how beautiful your home looks like.
Oh,
Yeah.
beautiful. So if you
Yeah.
would give some advice to people who say, okay, I want to be a story activist. The story that I'm living in is one that needs a bit of changing, or there's something that's really I'm passionate about. What would your advice be of how to start?
Well, I think I'll always tell people to tell their stories
Mm-hmm.
because today I was sharing with someone that we are all heroes in our past. We are all heroes of our past, you know, and our past is about stories of our past,
Mm-hmm.
beautiful stories of our past that are shaping our present today.
Mm-hmm.
So let's tell our stories. Let's share our stories because stories are beautiful. And stories inspire many people to do many different things. I was inspired by stories of people who wanted to change the society.
Mm-hmm.
I've been inspired by stories that I see that I've read in books of great people who've done something little to change the society.
Yeah.
If nobody told these stories, probably I wouldn't be telling my story here today.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds like a good place to start.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for the work you're doing, where you're doing it, and for the inspiration you are to others. And thank you for sharing that story here with us on the summit.
Thank you, Mary Alice.
Yeah, lovely to be here with you.
And thank you. You inspire me with how you tell your stories and how you do your trainings telling stories, you know.
Thank you.
Questioning the question.
Yeah, that's right. Oh my goodness. So for those of you who are listening, this is an invitation from Ben, maybe, and from me too, to tell your stories, to realize that you have great stories, and that when you share them, it makes an impact for other people, and it makes a space for other people to share theirs. And that's a good place to start, especially if you want to start shifting some bigger things that are going on in the world. Then finding each other through your story is a good place to start. Thank you very much for being with us, Ben, and thank you all for listening here at the Story of the Future Online Summit. Really so glad to have you here.
Thank you for invitation.